Well, I want to pose the question to you. A lot of times people talk about the elite, but you know what I really should call you really should call them is the narcissistics, the narcissistic ones. The elite that are actually there's always going to be an elite. There's always going to be a 1% or 1 basis point just by definition. There's always going to be somebody on the top, but the problem is the type of people you get on the top are some types of people you don't want. And a good example was the Nazis, right? That's a good definition of elitist, not narcissistic people. They're all into themselves, their uniforms, their way, and to hell with everybody else. It was either their way or you're dead, right? Pretty much that way they had it, right? But one of the biggest people that were, the counter-revolution was back in the 60s. I know about, the KGB was also fostering the use of drugs amongst the youth to weaken the youth. But, the major media actually never really interviewed the hippies that really knew what was going on. Because if you really got into the ones with the brains would tell you that actually during the Vietnam War, it wasn't so much that they were against the war, but the fact was they were playing the game whereby the elite were funding Russia indirectly, who was funding the North Vietnam, who was basically the U.S. taxpayer was funding both sides of that war. And a lot of the hippies knew that. So they knew it was bullshit. But it's like, what the hell are you going to do about it? I don't know. Some people say you got to just support the U.S. and you got to fight it. And some people said no. It was a mixed bag with the hippies. I know, I have to admit that. But, basically, I know the movement was tried to be pushed by the elite for, insidious reasons. But then again, it wasn't exactly all that way because a lot of times the elite try something, it blows up in their face. The thing is that anytime the elite really come down on people, though, things really backfire. And, I'm going to tell you, one of the worst things that we got coming up here, too, with the elitist plans, the narcissistics. You got to really call them that, man. You don't want to call them elitist because there's nothing wrong with a person with more talent, more drive, and more compassion being in charge. Actually, the one thing I always had a problem with when I was in the military was, not so much that you had to obey orders, but if the person that got in that situation or that rank was a total smack ass and they were basically got it and they didn't give a shit about nothing except themselves because they smacked ass to get that rank, they didn't earn it, and you got to listen to these assholes because they freaking got there because and they're only freaking riding on people to freaking use them for their own career, right? But it's not so much you got to ban something that you disagree with, but it's a matter of does the leader actually give a shit? And actually, the reality of the situation is the leaders in our country, by and large, don't give a shit. And basically the way to freaking when you fight them, you really realize what happens. You get in a problem. We even have what does America freaking really worship? Narcissistic Hollywood. It's all a game. It's all a charade. If they don't want their everyday life, whatever it is, they go to Hollywood, right? One of the biggest examples of a very narcissistic actress was Liz. Kind of liked her in some ways, but man, she was pretty much into herself all the way. Richard Burton was cool, but man, this lady, not too cool, man. I kind of liked her in some ways, but, you respect that discipline that they got to, take care of themselves. But, the problem is we don't just have elitists. We got freaking narcissists on the top. That's actually using the wrong word, elitist. They act like they care. They don't care. They even had this even in the hippie movement too, because some of the leaders of the hippie movement, it was like, oh yeah, I'm going to change the world. A little incense and leather fringe on my jacket. Oh, follow me and do for me. Sure, buddy. You had this crap everywhere, man. And actually, sometimes, that's really why we got the type of government that we got in the United States, because, our founding people that figured this out, they figure out a lot of times the worst shit in the world kind of floats to the top. So the government that governs least is the best, and the ones that the government is only supposed to freaking protect the rights of the individual, and it just doesn't get involved with what people do, But You know, basic premise of the hippie movement was pretty damn good. You know, it's about America, it's about freedom, and it's not about, you know, obeying authority just because authority is there. You know, you obey authority because maybe, you know, you gotta obey authority because they got the power. You know, that's the other thing. But, you know, up to a point. You know, if they got the power, you gotta obey them, because if you're gonna lose. You know, you don't want to be stupid going up against a freaking 16 inches of steel wall. But then again, you know, you always fight the power if they're unjust. But, you know, the thing is, a lot of times the power doesn't lack any compassion. It's all a freaking act. The whole thing is a freaking act, man. They're narcissistic on the top. I don't care if they're Republicans, Democrats, or what freaking they are. And, you know, you get a lot of this shit in the military, too. You know, with the brass, man. They're all freaking up on the top for what? They're out for themselves, right? So, you know, everything's all about the almighty dollar, right? Just like here, dog eat dog, man. Dog eat dog, you know, that's really what it is, you know. Just like here, you know, on a dollar. Hey, man, we're in a deal together, man. We're out here, we're fighting for what? Ourselves mainly, but, you know, it's dog eat dog. We got in dogs we trust. That's basically what the freaking deal is on the top. You got to remember that. You know, it's not, you know, actually when people talk about the elitist, they're missing the point. There's always going to be an elitist. It's a definition. It's the fact that we got narcissistic jackasses on the top is really what the problem is. But you know what? We got a narcissistic society. That's what's going on, man. Everybody in society is pretty much into themselves now. You know, they lack compassion. And I'm not talking about, you know, people talking religion and talking out the Bible and, you know, reciting everything about what Jesus said. Hey, you know, I mean, actually doing it. Actually, you know, it's the people that were ready to give up something, and it's not for the state, but it's for, you know, it's stupid. You don't want to be like, you know, give up for the state, because that's fascism, you know. What I'm talking about is, you know, you just have to give up to make sure, you know, somebody else survives. Maybe you got to do that. You got to give up so somebody else survives. People that are regular people. That's a non-narcissistic. But a narcissistic, they'd sacrifice everybody around them and they wouldn't give a shit and anything at all. And we got loads of that in our society. That's why we're getting these kind of leaders, man. You know? So, you know, even back in the day, a lot of people knew about President Kennedy. Be careful. Yeah. You know, they even warned him about when he went to Dallas, right? What happened? They warned him back then, right? And, you know, H.W. Bush was in that area too, Herbert Walker. VP of freaking Reagan, controlling him later. You know, Reagan, Bohemian Grove, right? Nixon, well, Nixon I don't think was one of them, actually. That's why he got burnt. You know, but the thing is, you know, it's like, you know, it's not so much the elite. It's not so much that they're the elite. They don't give a shit. They don't care, man. They don't care. You know, I don't give a damn if this person's an elitist. There's people I respect that are elitists that work hard. But, you know, and maybe they don't agree with everything they do or say. But if they got compassion or they believe in what they're doing is right and they're trying to do for people, that's a different thing. That's the same way I always saw it in the military, too. I mean, a good leader is somebody that you know that they give a shit. You know, the ones that you hated were the ones that were narcissistic, career rank assholes. And unfortunately, there's a lot of those around. It's like that everywhere. But, you know, you see this everywhere, man. You see this even with freaking women, you know, trying to freaking starve. That used to be the rage about a few years ago. ED, right? Eating disorder. Maybe there's less. I think there's a lot less of it going on now. But there's always something, though. But it's all about self, you know. It's all about me. About being me, number one, you know. That's a lot of it. It comes from that. It's like a narcissistic society. So we got narcissistic leaders. You know, it's people now they're going into strong is the new skinny, right? You know, going overboard the other way. You know, I will do whatever you want, but you know, it's almost like all about me. It's narcissism, man. And that's what we got. That's why we get in the leaders we get. You know, actually, I'd look at this next time. You know, probably gonna have Jeb Bush freaking voting, being against Hillary Clinton, and I know not enough Americans are gonna go independent. Definitely not. I'm not voting for Jeb Bush or Hillary. No way. You know, I'd vote for a Republican if they put somebody up, even that I didn't really like too much, as long as it's not Bush. I mean, we had enough of that shit. Forget about that crap. I definitely will not vote for Republican if it's Bush, period. And it's another one of those wishy-washy conservatives, which is, I don't even know what that means, but that's usually what you see amongst the religious. Wishy-washy conservatives, they talk, oh yeah, that's not religious, that's not, that's so terrible. Who gives a shit, man? I don't give a damn what anybody does, man. It's like, it's not your freaking business to freaking tell people what the hell to do, The real problem is we got a narcissistic people on the top, and it looks like our narcissistic society is going to probably elect the most narcissistic leader we ever had, Hillary. I don't know if she's going to win by true popular vote, but I can almost see that she's got enough support in some areas that I don't know. The Republicans ain't nailing this one good enough, because you can't nail her on stuff that's really good because they're guilty of it too. They can't nail her on the stuff, with this, sexual escapades of Bill or even what she did, or not just about money, but about what happened to campaign managers and stuff. Hey, you remember JFK Jr.? Crashed a plane. Man, he was going to run for senator. Who would have won? Not her. He would have been him. I mean, that's major suspicion on my part. Just like everything else. Well, I ain't supposed to say that? Fuck that, man. You know what I mean? I mean, that's freaking damn obvious, man. But I don't know why. Well, I don't know. But I could tell you, there are a lot of people that push these narcissistic types in. You know why? Because a lot of the people themselves are narcissistic. We don't have any compassion left in our society, man. That's a lot of the problem. And I'm not talking about reciting Jesus and all this stuff left and right, because most of those people are full of it. I know they are, man. As soon as they freaking tell me a lot of stuff about, oh yeah, the Lord's going to take care of it, and yeah, that's because you don't want to take care of it, so you figure the Lord will take care of it, so you don't have to do nothing. You just say that, right? So, actually, I'm all for individualism, going your own way, and being your own person. That's great. That's really the way it should be. But, when it goes to, all about me, and only me, that's when it gets to be like a freaking mess. And, it may look like something on the outside, but what we're going to is basically Nazism, man. Those are Nazism. You might want to think of Nazi as narcissistic. We got the Bush and Clinton clans are freaking narcissistic Nazis, both of them. One talks one way, it appeals to one crowd. One talks the other way, it appeals to the other crowd. That's what we got. But the problem is, like I said, we got a narcissistic population. So, it's not exactly like Republican and Democrat. We got a population that now lacks compassion for each other the way they used to. Because now they expect, hey man, we got to have the government do it. I mean, even the freaking hippies were guilty of that shit sometimes, I mean, hippies were a mixed bag, but I really do agree with the spirit of it, the spirit of the movement. I really do. I mean, I know sometimes some people were just, they were all into themselves too. There were narcissistic hippies too, man. There were. But, that's really the problem, man. People don't have compassion. And when you don't have compassion, that's a narcissistic. And you know what happens? People without compassion elect leaders that just talk a lot of shit and they freaking lack compassion. Whether it's always like I said, I don't care too much. I remember when I was in the military, if the leader, whoever the hell it was, I mean, sometimes you think, well, this guy's doing stupid shit or whatever. He's asked for this, he wants that, whatever the hell it is. But, if they give a shit, then you're on his side. That's the thing. And this lady, I know she don't give a shit about nothing. Hillary, God. Nah, me. But you know what? It's like all the ones that are actually supporting her, it's not even a political thing. It's a uncompassionate, narcissistic thing. And if you support Jeb Bush, you're an idiot. I'll tell you that right now. And that's probably what we're gonna have coming up here, man. So like, I am not. But you know what? Nobody's even got the balls to freaking go with other. I mean, anything other. You know, I don't give a damn. You know. I mean, I would almost any woman out down anywhere, I would just have as president over her. You mean you tell me it's because she's a woman? She's a narcissistic freaking hate bitch to the max, man. But the problem is we got loads of them out there in freaking society, man. You know, on disability with nothing really wrong with them. You know, collecting checks. You know, hey, I'm a woman, do for me, right? Hey, here, I shit, you freaking pick it up, right? That's, you know, we got a lot of them around. And, you know, it's like all over the place. Nobody wants to do anything. Nobody freaking wants to work, man. Everybody wants, you know, they really care because they want the government to fix it. No, they ain't going to freaking help you when they freaking got to get out there and freaking do it with their, you know, own two hands. They ain't going to do that. You imagine Hillary freaking washing the laundry for somebody? And she'd do it for a publicity stunt. That's about it. She'll do nothing for nobody, man. But it's not her. It's just all of them, man. The Bush family, you know, the Obama, you know. I mean, crying out loud. I mean, they're all screwed up. LBJ, who was a joke and a half. They're freaking all screwed up, man. All of them. All of them. So, you know, what's going on is, you know, we got the rotten society. It's, you know, it's almost like the KGB was kind of right in some ways. The United States was getting so damn materialistic that it's rotten from within. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. You know, I ain't really a capitalist for freaking, you know, it's kind of weird. You know, you throw those terms around about capitalism and communism and stuff. And I think the freaking Republicans and freaking Democrats both are freaking communists, man. They are, man. They're big government and they're freaking big business. That's elitist, narcissistic. That's all they support. Elitist narcissist on the top. You know? They bail out Warren Buffett, you know, with the freaking 2008, 2009 bailouts. Hey, he was all for that. Why was he for that? Because he was going to lose his ass. Bail that guy? Why did bail that guy out? Fuck him, man. He's got loads of money. Screw him, man. Screw him. Could you imagine if they went ahead and did like an economic stimulus of, say, for instance, you got really productive people. Let's say you got roofers out there. You got framers, you got people that do car mechanics, you got people mow the lines, you got people install driveways. Say they did economic stimulus where you had interest-free loans only on American-made products that they could buy equipment, and it was like a 10-year payback, and they could buy, like, you know, the best quality Snap-on tools or, you know, whatever the hell it is, all USA shit, you know what I mean? And, you know, they could buy the best, you know, roofing nailers and stuff, best hammers, best paving equipment out there, you know, and, you know, Milwaukee freaking floor jacks and freaking lathes and all this other kind of shit and drill presses and stuff. And, you know, all interest-free loans, 10-year payback, you know, and, you know, no balloon payment on the end or nothing like that, and maybe even, like, extend the loan out. And that was the economic stimulus. You know what they're doing right now? The economic stimulus actually is shoring up the equities market. You know, as big as the balance sheet got on the Federal Reserve. I'm kind of sidetracking here. That's what's actually holding up your equities, your Dow and your S&P. They've been buying. The Fed's been buying up those stocks. That's why the freaking Dow and the S&P hasn't crashed yet. It's gonna crash, man. And no, I mean, I don't even know why the hell, you know, I look at something like this, VW van, air-cooled. Man, I don't even know why people even buy new cars today, man. I'd be getting something like this. I mean, I'm probably going to get get rid of one of my newer cars, newer cars that's over 10 years old. We get a CJ5 or CJ7 Jeep, you know, for freaking, with no electronics in it, for crying out loud. I am like rejecting all this freaking newfangled shit, and in a way, I'm a hippie, but I don't have the hippie garb, you know, because I believe in the real way, the real message was about. Because, you know, I'm against shit like authoritarians where they think they fucking own a freaking planet, and you know that goes for cops too. I mean, they got cops that are good and they got cops that are bad. And you know, you've seen a lot of stuff on YouTube that are cops that are bad, and I know they overdo it on YouTube because generally speaking, cops aren't like that. But you know what always bugs the shit out of me about some of that crap is they all stick together because they wear the uniform. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's like a club. But you know, if you were doing that, it would be RICO. RICO, 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 conspiracy. You know what I mean? That ain't good enough because in a lot of ways I'm siding with the people all the way. But then again, I also realize within the hippie movement, they had their own narcissistic yo-yos out there, like I said before. Hey man, a puff of incense and some leather fringe on my jacket, and I'm going to change the world. You know, listen to me, follow me, do for me, right? They don't do shit. They don't do shit. The hippies that freaking were cool is the ones that actually picked up the tools and do the job, and they do the job right, right? They're the ones that ain't the narcissistic ones. So, you know, actually, I tell you the truth, I'd rather see somebody who was a politician. Matter of fact, you know what, I'm going to ad-lib here even longer because I freaking should have went this long. But, you know, it's even reflected in our Congress, which is not the House of Representatives and the Senate, that we have less veterans than we ever had. We had way more veterans back in the 50s and 60s and 70s than we got today. You know that? I mean, a veteran doesn't automatically mean that you're compassionate to the American people. Maybe you're not a good one. Like McCain's a good example of that because he sold out to POWs left and right. If you don't know that, he did, even though he was a POW himself. So I'm dropping some dimes on here, man. I know I read a lot of I know shit from decades ago, well researched, before the internet was even around. McCain's a sellout too. But I mean, the thing is, you know, the fact that we got less veterans in our House of Representatives and Senate is also a problem too, and that's also a danger, because the ones that actually served our country, whether they were a hippie and then hippies got into, there's a lot of freaking people that are veterans, man. They went to the biker world too, you know that, and they became hippies, but they're stand-up hippies. They stick with the crowd, you know. But the thing is, as a matter of fact, most biker groups grew up from veterans, right? But the thing is, you know, veterans would be more likely to have compassion for the American people and would sacrifice their own self-interest for the interest of others. You ain't gonna ever see a narcissistic person do that. And it's a lot less likely that a veteran's going to be narcissistic than these civil employees that came up from the ranks, like, you know, everybody else. And I know, like, I mean, I don't know, whatever. It's disgusting what's going on. But it's not just, it's just saying it's elitist. Isn't really saying, you're not using the right word. They're narcissistic. There's always going to be an elitist. Hey, the elitist is out there marching on the head of his troops. You know, that's a good guy. Like, I could tell you one guy I always respected a lot. That was a German Nazi guy. Well, he wasn't a political Nazi, but he was Rommel. He was right out there, man. He was right out there in the desert. He ate the same food the troops ate. He didn't get no special treatment. He was right out there with them. And he wasn't a political Nazi. He was a soldier. He was a soldier. You know, that's an example of somebody in the same uniform that was not a narcissistic person in the least. That was a true leader. So, I mean, you know, it doesn't really necessarily go by, you know, where you come from, but it's a matter of, do you have compassion or you don't? And all these politicians, they act like they got compassion, but they don't. They're full of shit. You got to really look at where they came from. And if they've been in government their whole life, screw them. Throw them out the freaking door. Never elect a shithead that's been in government all their life. I don't give a shit if they call themselves a libertarian. Because they're full of it, man. They're full of it. And never listen to a religious asshole that has their own private jet. Like I tell you, one guy, he freaking had a private jet. I forgot his guy's name, but he had a private jet. He used to be a big-time preacher. You know where it happened? It crashed into a junkyard and it blew up and it killed him and it burst into flames. I was like, good. Junkyard, man. Forgot the guy's name, but freaking crashed into a junkyard. We should be so lucky with these other assholes, man. You know?